Hello there. Welcome back to my podcast series. This isn't a real series. Please don't beg for more, unless you want more. Today, we will be covering the case of Polygram Records Incorporated versus Superior Court. Now, Polygram Records was owned by Robin Williams, and Superior Court was representing David Reggie, a winemaker. Now, before I go too far into this, because the whole point of this was Reggie claimed one of Robin Williams' jokes was an act of trade libel and was defamatory towards his business. I'm going to play that joke for you so it is more easily understood. And because I am horrible at jokes, I'm going to let Mr. Robin tell it himself. This is one of his recordings. This is the audio version of the recording. There are two.
Oh, there are white wines, there are red wines, but why are there no black wines? Reggie, a motherfucker. It goes with fish, meat, any damn thing it wants to. I like my wine like I like my women, ready to pass out. Yes, you know though, if you drink wine though,
Alright, and that's it for that joke. So, this was part of a 5-minute segment focusing on wines. So, here in this joke, Robin's talking about different types of wine. White wine and red wine. And he asked the question, why is there no black wine? Reggie, a motherfucker. Now, he's actually coming up with a brand name and label. That's what he's doing. He's using Reggie, the name of a winemaker in the San Francisco area, at least that's what I'm pretty sure he was, and a motherfucker, the name of the black wine he would create. Reggie did not like this. Reggie actually took Robin to court, suing him for, like I said, libel and defamation, saying that Robin's jokes had hurt his business. So this went through the California courts, and I believe there was one court. It started out, Reggie won the first case, but Robin managed to bring this back as an appeal, and it was overturned. I'm still trying to understand how an appeal court works, so if you'd like to make comments, take some grade away from me, go right ahead. But as far as I understand, this decision was made in an appeal court. So, what happened? I've got my notes here in front of me, and let's go over them, why don't we? So, as I stated, this case went through in 1985. So, one of the first points made by Robin's side was the fact that, well, he was in fact a well-known comedian by this point, and this was a part of a comedy act. So, it kind of falls under what I've discussed before in my paper, saying if you're using satire, more or less, very often you can get away with criticizing people with jokes. Thing is, you'll also have to be careful how you do with that, though, because people will still try to sue, as we see here. So, Reggie claimed that Robin's act implied his wines were inferior, and of course this would hurt his business. What ended up really happening, though, in this case was the real question of, did Robin's joke actually count as libel under California law? The California law hadn't really gone into this as much by this point. They hadn't really defined what the law meant. They just had a basic law saying, don't do trade libel. And the court was like, well, what is trade libel? I realize more often than not, that's what these cases end up being, a definition of the law, with someone winning on either side. That happened last week with the Florida Star case. Because what ended up happening was what happened actually covered by the law or not? Because the law wasn't descriptive enough. So this went back and forth. Robin's side actually brought up a few earlier cases that had used humor on TV. One case was like a televised talk show or music show involving someone named Arno. Basically, on the show, in a very joking manner, and everyone took this as a joke, somebody was basically called part of a mafia, like an iron-sided mafia or something like that. But here's the thing, it was a joke. It was 100% a joke, and everyone took it as a joke. And therefore, if it's a joke, there's absolutely no truth behind it. It's not made in any sort of anger, or there's no sense of, oh, I don't like you behind this. That doesn't count as libel. We've covered this before. And so it was pointed out again by Robin's side that this was a joke. And jokes are a fundamental part of the freedom of speech. Because they kind of tread that line of, I'm insulting you and I'm having a good time. They are right there on that line. As I read through the case, the line, the knife edge of freedom of speech, came up a couple of times. I think that was a pretty neat way of putting it, the knife edge, so to speak. Let's see. Not as important as the whole definition of libel was the Reggie side wanted to say that that Robin's joke was a bit racist, and that was determined to not be the case. And if it was, Robin would have been going after an entire group of people. It didn't make a lot of sense to me, I'm going to be honest. But basically the court said, this is not the case. We're not talking about that. We're talking about libel. And the end decision, basically, was something I've stated in my earlier papers or so. But as the joke cannot be taken in a serious context, as it is a joke, and it doesn't present any actual truth, it does not constitute as libel. Now, I will say that there was some rewriting of the law because of this. There were other versions. The libel law in California wasn't descriptive enough, so they made it more descriptive, and they added a new category like defamatory, I think it was called. Oh, where'd it go? I want to get you the actual word for it. And I know this probably count against my grade, but oh well. Basically, it was another version of defamation that applied to a talk show or a comedy act. Instead of just being via paper or by television or by writing it per se, there was now the added category that classified a spoken version of libel in the California law. So, that was a good thing. Even Robin won this case, but it did help clarify the law so there wouldn't be as many issues in the future. And again, I know that's the point of this all. We're seeing how laws are changing to adapt to the times. And they always will. I guarantee one day we'll have giant holograms. And I'm sure there's going to be some sort of problem with that in terms of libel. But for now, Robin Williams for the win. Because everyone loves Robin Williams. I have never met a person that didn't like Robin Williams. So, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. And I hope that you all have a wonderful time. I'm glad everyone stayed safe during the snowstorm. And I'd like to just say, keep on moving on, everybody. So, take care. Bye-bye.